They told you America rewards bravery. They told you that if you fight hard enough, bleed enough, give enough, this country will recognize you. But there is a man you have almost certainly never heard of who saved lives on the worst morning in American naval history, who grabbed a weapon he had never been trained to use and fired it while the world was ending around him. And when it was over, they handed him a lesser medal, sent him back to the kitchen, and spent the next 80 years pretending it never happened quite the way it did. His name was Dory Miller. Everyone called him Dory, and the story of what they did to him and to the thousands of black soldiers before and after him is one of the most calculated acts of erasure this country has ever pulled off. This is not just his story, it is a pattern. It goes back more than a century, and by the time we are done here, you will never look at a military uniform the same way again. Picture the morning of December 7th, 1941. The USS West Virginia is anchored at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Dory Miller is below deck. He is not in a combat post. He is not in a gunner station. He is collecting laundry. That was his job. Not because he was not strong enough or smart enough for anything else. He was 6 feet 3 inches tall and 250 pounds. He had been the heavyweight boxing champion of his ship, but the United States Navy in 1941 had a rule. Black men do not operate weapons. Black men cook. Black men serve food to white officers. Black men clean up. That was the rule. By June of 1940, nearly every black sailor in the entire Navy had been pushed into steward and mess roles. The black press had a name for them. They called them seagoing bellhops. Then, the bombs started falling. Miller came up from below deck into a scene that would break most people. Planes were screaming overhead. Ships were exploding across the harbor. His captain, Mervyn Benyon, had been hit and was dying on the bridge. Miller did not run. He moved toward it. He carried wounded sailors across a burning deck. Men who could not move themselves, pulled through smoke and fire. Then he saw it. An unmanned 50 caliber Browning anti-aircraft machine gun. Nobody was behind it. The man who should have been there was gone, and Dory Miller sat down behind that gun. He had zero gunnery training. Zero. The Navy had made sure of that, but he started firing anyway. The official Navy count says he shot down 1 Japanese aircraft. Miller himself and multiple eyewitnesses on that deck said it was 4 to 6. He just kept firing until someone told him to stop. Think about that for a second. A man they deliberately kept away from weapons in a country that spent decades telling the world black men did not have the intelligence or the nerve for combat. That man sat behind a gun he had never been trained to use and performed one of the most remarkable acts of bravery in the entire Pacific War. And this is where the story gets darker. After the attack, Miller went back to his duties, back to the kitchen, because that was still his assignment. On May 27, 1942, Admiral Chester Nimitz presented Miller with the Navy Cross at a fleet ceremony. Nimitz said Miller had distinguished himself in the face of the enemy. A congressman from Michigan and a senator from New York both nominated Miller for the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration this country gives. The Navy said no. Of the 15 sailors awarded the Medal of Honor for their actions at Pearl Harbor, not one was black. Not one. And this is exactly the kind of moment that gets buried. Hold that thought for a second. If stories like this are new to you, if nobody taught you this, that is not an accident. Subscribe to Black Stories Untold. We dig this stuff out every single week. Now, back to what happened next. Because what happened next is the part that will make your chest tight. Dory Miller was assigned to the escort carrier USS Liscum Bay. On November 24, 1943, a Japanese submarine torpedoed the ship. The torpedo hit the bomb storage. Everything ignited at once. The USS Liscum Bay sank in 23 minutes. Of the more than 900 men aboard, 702 were killed. It is the deadliest carrier sinking in United States history. Dory Miller was 24 years old. His parents were not even told he was gone until December 7th, exactly 2 years after Pearl Harbor. The Navy listed him as presumed dead. He never made it home. He never got the Medal of Honor. He was still a cook on paper when he died. But here is what you need to understand. Dory Miller did not appear from nowhere. He was the latest in a long line of black men who were handed the worst assignment in the building, then walked out of it and did something extraordinary, and were still not fully honored for it. Let us go back. Almost 80 years before Pearl Harbor, July 18th, 1863, Fort Wagner, South Carolina. The 54th Massachusetts Regiment, one of the first all-black Union regiments in the Civil War, was ordered to lead a frontal assault on a Confederate fort. They were given the most dangerous position in the attack. They knew the odds. They went anyway. Of the 600 men who charged that fort, 270 became casualties. Their colonel, a white man named Robert Gould Shaw, was killed in the assault. But it is a black man you need to remember from that day, Sergeant William Carney. He watched the soldier carrying the regiment's flag go down. Carney grabbed that flag before it could hit the ground. He was shot, then shot again. He kept moving forward, holding that flag up with one arm while his body was being torn apart. He made it back to the Union lines, collapsed, and said these words, "Boys, I did but my duty. The dear old flag never touched the ground." The courage at Fort Wagner directly convinced President Lincoln to authorize the recruitment of more black regiments. Their blood changed the shape of the war, and Sergeant Carney's Medal of Honor for that act. It arrived 37 years later, in 1900, an entire generation after the fact. Now jump to 1866. Congress officially establishes the Buffalo Soldiers, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, later the 24th and 25th Infantry. These were all black units assigned to the most brutal frontier work in America, fighting in the Indian Wars across the most unforgiving terrain on the continent. They fought more than 150 engagements. They earned 17 Medals of Honor in those campaigns alone. But here is the number that matters. During the Indian Wars era, Buffalo Soldiers made up 12% of the Army's infantry and 20% of its cavalry. They received less than 4% of all Medals of Honor awarded. Do the math on what that means. In 1898, at the Battle of San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War, the 10th Cavalry broke through the final Spanish defensive line. They lost 20% of their fighting force in that assault. They were the only unit to storm both high points of San Juan Heights. Theodore Roosevelt later said, black troops helped save his Rough Riders from total destruction, then spent the rest of his life walking back the compliment. Native American fighters who faced the Buffalo Soldiers gave them their name because they respected their toughness. They compared them to the buffalo, powerful, fierce, unstoppable. Their own country compared them to servants. And this is where everything starts to connect. The pattern is not random, it is a choice. The same system that turned Dory Miller into a mess attendant also told the world in the early 1940s that black men did not have the intelligence or the nerve to fly fighter aircraft. So when black pilots trained at Tuskegee, Alabama, beginning in 1941, they were handed that same message. You do not belong in the cockpit. Let the real men fly. The Tuskegee Airmen flew anyway. 992 pilots graduated between 1942 and 1946. They flew more than 15,000 individual sorties. They completed 1,578 combat missions. They shot down 112 enemy aircraft. In a single day, they downed 3 German jets at a time when the Luftwaffe had the most advanced air technology in the world. They lost bombers on only 7 missions, 27 total, compared to an average of 46 bombers lost among comparable P-51 groups in the 15th Air Force. They earned 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses. The men who said black pilots could not fly had to watch black pilots outfly nearly everyone in the sky. Their record was so undeniable that it directly contributed to President Truman signing Executive Order 9981 on July 26, 1948. the order that officially desegregated the United States military. More than 1 million Black Americans had served in World War II. They fought in segregated units. They slept in segregated barracks. Half of the Black men who volunteered or were drafted during the war were turned away because military bases said they lacked separate areas to house them. The 1940 Selective Service Act had technically outlawed racial discrimination in military service. It was ignored from the day it passed. So here is what this all adds up to. And this is the part that should make you furious. From the Civil War to World War II, the United States military ran the same play over and over again. Step 1. Restrict Black men to the most demeaning, least visible role available. Give them the mop, the ladle, the supply crate. Step 2. Put them in the most dangerous situations on Earth, where those restrictions mean nothing because the bullets do not care what your job title is. Step 3. Watch them perform acts of extraordinary courage that everyone present can see with their own eyes. Step 4. Award the lesser honor, delay the real one, deny it entirely, bury the story. William Carney waited 37 years. The Buffalo Soldiers were erased from the credit they earned in the Indian Wars. The Tuskegee Airmen spent decades being called a myth before the records proved what they had done. And Dory Miller, the man who fought off an air attack with a weapon the Navy had specifically made sure he was never trained to use, has been nominated for the Medal of Honor every single year since 2015. Every single year. As of right now, Congress has still not voted to give it to him. He has been dead for over 80 years. They are still arguing about it. The Navy did eventually name something after him. The USS Dory Miller, hull number CVN-81, a Ford-class aircraft carrier, is scheduled to be commissioned around 2030. A carrier named after the man they would not let near a weapon. There is something almost insulting about that, if the recognition does not come with the medal he earned on December 7, 1941. Dory Miller's story is not just about one brave man who got shortchanged. It is about a system that needed Black bodies to fight its wars, but could not bring itself to give Black men the full credit. Because full credit meant full humanity, and full humanity meant full equality. And full equality was exactly what that system was built to prevent. They handed these men mops and called it their place. Then they watched these men grab rifles, flags, machine guns, and fighter planes, and rewrite what was supposed to be possible. That is the story they did not want you to carry. That is the pride they spent 150 years trying to bury. You know it now. Do not let it go quiet again. This was Black Stories Untold, and as always, thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, click the video on your screen now.